What's up, everyone, and welcome to a bit of a different series today. We're going to start a series in OOTP 17, and I'm going to do a little bit of explaining. So for those of you that are unaware, although I imagine some of you are, because if you're here for MLB videos, you probably know what this is. This is a baseball simulator made by Out of the Park Developments that pretty much you can simulate a baseball season from any year at any time under any circumstances from several hundreds, or maybe not hundreds of leagues, but several different leagues around the world. And there's an ability to do an expansion draft in this, and I wanted to do this series because there's not a lot of OOTP series out on YouTube, at least not in years past anyway, and I thought that I could do something a little bit different. We did some expansion, and I don't know how common that is to do. I've ever seen one or two expansion series in OOTP, so I skipped out all of the boring parts, and we're going to show you the two teams we use. So one of them was the Montreal Expos, and we're going to show you that team as well, but that is not the team that we are going to be taking over. Let's see the team that we are going to be taking over as we click continue game. The Vancouver Canadians. Now, in real life, the Vancouver Canadians are the short season A affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. See, if I go to the Toronto Blue Jays team page, you can see right here, Vancouver Canadians, short season A team. But we're going to take over the Vancouver Canadians at the MLB level. We did the whole draft and everything, and I actually tried to record it, but I clicked Toronto Blue Jays on accident. We actually tried to record it, but or I actually tried to record it, but I ran into a few problems while recording, and so I figured it would just be easier to go back through and do it this way. And one of the main problems I ran into was I didn't know how to get fake players on the team, but I did figure it out. And we're going to show you the team in a second. We'll go show you the Montreal Expos team afterward as well. So this is basically the team. This is not, and I don't remember the order I drafted anybody in. So our number one starter, Tanner Roark. Real life, he's Washington Nationals. He had a bad year last year, but the year before he had a very solid year. 15-10 with a 2.85 ERA and 1.09 WHIP. He was a 3-win pitcher, which is very good. He's going to be our ace. Kind of a, I don't know, it was just, he's relatively young. He's only has 2 years of MLB service, so he has at least 3 more years before we would have to get rid of him. And we're probably not going to be competitive in that time, but maybe he can build up his value and become a valuable pitcher for us or for another team, because we're an expansion team, so we're going to be terrible anyway. I just wanted to get a few guys who could later become valuable down the road. Erasmo Ramirez is our number 2 starter. He had a solid year last year for the Tampa Bay Rays, mostly in relief, but he has pretty decent stamina ratings in this year's game. He has 4 very good pitches, which is good because if you're a starter, you really need 4 good pitches. He doesn't have the greatest stuff, but movement control are very good. And he's another one who can just turn into a valuable asset down the road and maybe net us some more valuable, or some of the assets like a couple prospects or a pitcher that we can use instead. I think I can go down this way. No, that didn't work. Erasmo Ramirez. Alright, this is not what I wanted to do. Let's go back until we can get out of here. Alright, whoops, I went too far. Alright, we'll go forward. Alright, Jose Torres is our 3rd starter. Now, I put him in the middle of the rotation because he's lefty, and I want a lefty in the middle. He has never been anywhere above high A, and that was only for 3 2/3 innings. But he has really good ratings in this game. All above average pitches and above average basic pitching ratings. The OSA, I think, likes him too. Yeah, they say he's everything good except for his control, and he's already got good stamina, and so he's just one of those young guys who expansion draft teams take. For example, the first pick in the Tampa Bay Rays expansion draft, their first pick was a pitcher as well who's very young and didn't have a lot of MLB experience. So I figured it was a realistic grab to put him in the major leagues even at this point. Hiram Burgos is going to be our 4th starter. He only has 3 pitches, but he has really good ratings, and he's 28 years old. He's never pitched in the majors. I believe he was, I don't remember what team he actually was on. I don't know what CS is, what minor league affiliate that is. But he has pretty good ratings as well. And you can see the kind of the theme where these guys are a little bit below average, but they have decent ratings, and they don't really have big names either. Zach Davies, he's been in the majors already. He has a little bit of experience, 3.771 ERA and 6 starts with a 1.21 WHIP. Not the greatest, but we just needed a fifth starter by that point in the draft. He was one of my last draft picks. And then here are our relievers. I did not set anyone to any specific roles. I figured they could all figure it out amongst themselves because the only two pitchers we have with extended MLB experience in the bullpen is Hansel Robles, who was a rookie last year, and Kevin Segrist, who's only been in the majors for, I believe, 2 years at this point. So we'll take a quick look at all of these guys. Pazos, only 24 years old, has 2 really good pitches. Needs to work on his control, but other than that, very good rating so far. He's obviously a bullpen-only guy, and he could be a good setup man in the future, maybe. Hansel Robles, 3 good pitches, decent movement, decent control. Obviously just a bullpen guy, but he has very good stuff. Paul Sewald hasn't been in the majors yet. Good breaking stuff, not very good other than that. He has good control, though, and he's already a really good pitcher, it says, so that's good. Kevin Segrist has MLB experience with the Cardinals the last couple years. Had a really good year last year. Not the greatest control in the world, but again, solid, very good stuff. Chasen Shreve, he was a Yankees prospect. I believe he actually had a bit of experience last year and a bit of experience the year before that with Atlanta. Has 2 good pitches, but really nothing outside of that. And he's not, I don't have really high hopes for him. Jake Barrett, an Arizona Diamondbacks guy. Couple good pitches, maybe he can turn into something, who knows. All right, so let's move on to our lineups. My first pick in the draft was Jonathan VR. And he doesn't have the greatest ratings in the world. He's fast. He plays decent defense. He has okay contact, gap power, eye, and decent home run power. But he's probably not going to turn into a whole lot. He just had the highest potential out of anyone there. Joey Rickard, current. I didn't want to do that. Let me go back. Let's flip those two. And look at Joey Rickard. Joey Rickard, I don't know how to say his name. I think it's Rickard, or Rickard, but it's probably Rickard. Plays all 3 outfield positions well. That's good. The flexibility in case a prospect comes up at some point and needs a specific position. Got great defensive ratings. Really good eye potential. He already has great gap power and good contact. He's like the perfect number 2 hitter. He can't hit for home runs, which is fine. And he's only decent at avoiding Ks. But he's a very good base runner as well. And he's had a few good minor league seasons that he put together. Never really below 700 besides this 1 year at AA. So and that's kind of my basic threshold for if someone's worth holding on to is a 700 OPS as a hitter anyway. And if they're playing, I like to look at good defense too. But all right, so he's playing center field. Wilmer Flores is our number 3 guy. He's playing DH because he doesn't really play any specific position well, and he has decent contact ratings and gap and home run power. It's just his eye's not very good, so we'll see how that works out. But he does avoid strikeouts pretty decently. He actually only had 63 and 510 plate appearances last year. Not the greatest MLB career to start out, but again, we're an expansion team, and we're not going to be very good anyway. I don't know why his errors so high. I watched him commit like a lot of errors last year. Mike Napoli was later in the draft kind of guy we picked up just to be a clubhouse guy, and he plays a really good defensive first base. And he's really good hitting ratings outside of that avoid Ks. And also for an asset to trade at the trade deadline. Scott Van Slyke, pretty good hitter, hitting ratings. He's been in the Dodgers for years, obviously now, but never really broke through into a full-time role. He had an 807 OPS in 2013 and 910 in 2014, and he kind of had a bad year last year, only hitting a 700 OPS, and he was only a 0.4 of a win player, which is not very good, considering he was almost a 3-win player and only 246 plate appearances just the year before. But hopefully he can turn into something for us. He's still under team control for a little bit. Preston Tucker, one of the only left-handed guys we have. Decent hitting ratings, that's about it. Maybe he can turn into an okay defensive player, but really he's just there for his hitting at this point. That was the only reason I drafted him. Then he's young, you never know, his potential could go up. Matt Reynolds is the second baseman. Very good defensive player. Could play second base or shortstop. We'll see if Villar struggles or if we ended up trading Villar. We could probably move Reynolds into that spot. Not the greatest hitter in the world, but he's a good base runner, and he gets on base in terms of his eye discipline. So we'll see how it works out for him on this team. Ryan Schimpf hasn't been in the MLB yet, but he has really good gap and home run power, so maybe at the bottom of our lineup he could get something going. And he doesn't play any position very well, but he has a really good arm, so I put him at third base. And finally, Wilson Ramos. Had a bad last couple years with Washington, but he had a good year in 2013, and maybe he can turn it around I don't know, but he's also a really good defensive catcher. And then on the bench, not in our lineups, we have Rene Rivera, backup catcher, Sean Rodriguez, backup infielder, Hanser Alberto, backup infielder, David Murphy, backup, right fielder and DH, and Will Venable plays the other 2 spots. And I actually need to put Scott Van Slyke in as our backup first baseman because he's one of the only people who can play first base on our entire roster that anywhere above average. So we will look now at the Montreal Canadiens really quick, and then we will head on, or the Montreal Expos. We're the Vancouver Canadiens. So their lineup: Daryl Siciliani, decent defensive player, not very good hitter. Yes, he has okay ratings, pretty good defensively though. He's not really a leadoff guy, but these teams are both going to be pretty terrible this year anyway. Starlin Castro, someone I was looking at drafting originally, but they picked with the number 1 pick in the draft. I actually had the number 2 pick, and my first pick was Jonathan Villar because it was a serpentine draft. But I was going to take Starlin Castro number 1 just because he has the most potential to turn into a trade chip down the line because he has decent contact and he's a pretty okay defensive player. John Singleton, another guy I was looking at taking at one point in the draft, kind of flamed out as a Houston Astros prospect, but he's got good eye discipline and home run power, and it looks like the OSA likes his gap power potential too. So he could be a good piece down the road for them. Jordani Valdespin, former Mets prospect and kind of Marlins utility guy, second baseman, outfielder, good contact, decent at avoiding strikeouts. He could be a good grab for them. Colin Cowgill, another former Met, not very good at anything. He's a very good defensive left fielder, and he's good at base running though. So that might be, anything hitting wise. But he might end up being a pretty decent player for them. Tyler Nakin, a Cleveland prospect, really good defensive player, decent gap power too. Not great at really anything else, but he's a solid base runner too. So we'll see how that works out. And we're going to be keeping a close eye on this team because we're going to see how potentially these teams might stack up in the future. Giovanni Urshela, a very good defensive player, decent gap power. He had a solid campaign at the beginning of this season in 2015, but he didn't really ever live up to what he started out doing because I was watching a lot of games early on where he was playing because the Indians had a really interesting second half of last season. Tucker Barnhart, not very good hitting-wise, but he's an excellent defensive catcher. Another guy I was looking at potentially to be our catcher before I settle on Wilson Ramos because I wanted the hitting potential a little bit more, and the defensive difference doesn't really matter because our team's going to be terrible, as I've said several times now. Keon Broxton, excellent defensively, good gap power potential, great base runner, so we'll see what he turns into. He's another guy I looked at drafting. It looks like the other guys on the roster, Roberto Perez, decent defensively. Dilson Herrera, I'm surprised they're not starting him. He doesn't really have great ratings in this game. Or even great potential. Jed Jerko, solid platoon guy, can hit decently, although he had a bad year with San Diego the last couple of years. And he didn't really do the greatest year before that either. Chris Taylor, Mariners guy, kind of flamed out. This game doesn't have, my head scout says he has really good potential. And I can see why. It's the defensive ratings, really. And he has still untapped kind of hitting ratings. He wasn't a guy that I was willing to mortgage a pick on, though. And that looks like that's it. Let's look at their pitching staff now. They have Mice Bolsinger. This is another one of their top. I think this was their second pick in the draft. Good stuff. Not the greatest ratings up here, but he's solid starter. He's definitely someone who could be valuable to a team. Trevor Cahill's at the bottom for some reason. He's starting. Adam Warren, solid all around. Another guy I was looking at. He has 4 pitches that are really good. All his ratings are in the 50s and 55 and 60. Mike Leake just signed this big contract with the Cardinals, so they have that on their hands for a relatively small market. That might end up being a bad thing because he has good control, but he doesn't have very many good pitches. So we'll see how that works out for them down the line. Travis Wood, former Cubs starter and turned bullpen man. Although he did start 9 games for them last year, I did not know that. Some solid pitches, got 5 good pitches it looks like, so he could be a decent starter for them. Again, those are the kind of guys though you want to take a risk on in expansion drafts because they might end up being good, decent for you. And Trevor Cahill, who is kind of underrated in this game, he had a really good stretch with Chicago to end the year. A 2.12 ERA in 17 games. He had a really good postseason run too, from what I remember. So Weird that they're starting him. Their closers, Pedro Baez. I'm not going to look at all these relievers. But I do like these couple of these guys are really starters. Like Aaron Brooks is a... he's really doesn't have very good ratings, but he probably should be a starter. Matt Andres is a starter. He's had a really good stretch with Tampa Bay to start out the season, and I think he's made 3 starts now. Mike Foltynewicz, who I think the OSA likes a lot. Yeah, I think he could be really good, but my head scout doesn't think he's very good, so I didn't see him very much in the draft when I was looking at prospects. And he's had a bad MLB stretch, but he's still got good potential, and I think he could be a really good player or pitcher down the line for the Atlanta Braves in real life. So that's pretty much going to do it. I don't know how drafting works. I don't think we have picks, but I'm going to try and do a mid-season episode of this to do like trade deadline, because if you take a look at front office, I do have a couple of pending offers I should probably go over. I don't know where to do that this year, though. I did offer a couple of contracts to players, but you can take a look here. This trade deadline. We have Mike Napoli and Sean Rodriguez, who are unrestricted free agents. We also have David Murphy and Will Venable, but I don't doubt we'll get anything for either of those players. And Wilson Ramos is a free agent after next season. So we'll see right here. Yeah, Wilson Ramos will be... let me look at 2018. That's what I wanted. And Rene Rivera will also be a free agent because he has one more year of arbitration, but I doubt we're going to keep him around for that price. Because if you take a look at our budget finances, we are going to have a lot of money in free agency next year. This year, not so much, because we've done a little bit in terms of offering free agents contracts. I actually think I remember where to go to see that. We originally had a lot of problems with not filling out our minors, and I'll show you prospects actually soon. I had to do a round. I couldn't figure out how to add fake players into the game to fill out the minors, and eventually I did figure it out. But it took forever, and I just went out and tried to sign a bunch of free agents try to sign a few free agents to help with that. So this guy, these are all prospects. Mitch Nair, our scout doesn't like him, but the OSA thinks he could be really good. He's already 24 years old, and I'm just willing to throw him down in the minors and see what he can do. Might turn into a solid piece for us. Zach Reisdorf, our head scout, also doesn't like him, but the OSA thinks he could be pretty decent. He's also only 20 years old. You never know. Vinicio Martinez was just about the only international guy we could even afford. He's got really good potential in terms of gap power, home run power, and eye discipline. He's only 17. He's just about the only international guy we could afford after all the expenses we put out. Tyler Humphreys, again, our head scout doesn't like him, but I'm trying to replace the head scout because he didn't have very good ratings, and there was a guy who had excellent scout minors. So this guy has really good gap power and home run potential, and again, he's only 22 years old. So, and then this is really the big guy I was going after for stuff was this guy Noré Ruiz, and he had 3 good pitches, and he also looks like he's gonna have really good control and movement, and he's gonna be a starter. So those are the 5 guys we're probably gonna sign. I haven't had any indication that they're not gonna sign yet. And this is the free agent class for next year. I doubt we're gonna sign any of these guys because they would take away whatever draft pick we might have. Although I imagine that'll be pretty bad too. But someone I would consider going after is like a Strasburg because he's 27. That would be just about it out of this draft class because everyone else who's under 30 is pretty much a reliever or nothing. So that's pretty much going to do it. So I'll show you our prospects or our minor leagues too. And not that anyone really cares probably, but I'll still show it. So yeah, we got this. A lot of these guys are fake. You can tell the guys who aren't fake because they have actual ratings. And I'll show based on our scout. I'll show based on the OSA, what the OSA thinks they're going to do. So anyone who, these guys are all guys that were auto-drafted. These 5 guys right here. And they're the only guys that stayed in AAA. The rest of these guys are all fake. It looks like a couple fake prospects actually have decent potential, so that's pretty nice. You know, we'll just throw them into trades or something, because I don't mind having the fake players, because there's always times where random players become really good. So like that, we're never expected to turn in anything. I took Striker Trahan because our scout and Renato Nunez for the same reason, and Braxton Davidson, all bad potential according to the USA, but our scout really liked them, so that was really the only reason I took them. And Pedro Severino, I think, has 5 stars according to our scout. Yeah, 4.5 stars. Although it doesn't really look like he's going to turn in anything hitting wise. That's fine with me. I think that everyone else is fake. So we'll just see if anyone has potential. That's according to our scout again. We'll do it by the OSA, because this will be a different scout by the time that. And I think it's actually the same for these fake players anyway. So we'll just see if anyone is even good in these. It looks like that's not going to be the case though. We'll go short season A. So yeah, this guy's got 2.5 stars. It's not bad. I clicked on the wrong button. Alright, and yeah, these guys are all going to be bad after this point. So, looking forward to the season. It's important to mention we're in the AL West. I'll pull up the standings real quick. We're in the AL West. Obviously, we're in Vancouver. And the reason we're in the AL is because I put the Expos in the NL East, the division that they were originally in. And the NL East is pretty bad, so they might actually be a better team before we are. We obviously have a lot of good teams in our division. The Astros are amazing. In this game anyway. Seattle's really good. Texas is a really good team. Oakland's pretty competitive, and LA obviously has Mike Trout and a couple others. So this will be a tough division to take over. And so thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoy, and stay tuned for future installments of this series. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned.